Okay, let's get started. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this morning's webinar, Developing Your Workforce Civil Engineering. My name is David Aaron. I am the Marketing Manager for the Graduate Apprenticeships team here at Heriot-Watt. I'm just going to do some quick intros and some housekeeping, and then we'll get started. So, today we shall hear about graduate apprenticeships from my colleagues Derek Thompson and Lauren Gilbrun from Heriot-Watt. Then Donna Surgener from ICE Scotland is going to discuss the professional development opportunities with ICE membership. We also welcome Hazel Johnson from CITB Scotland, and Hazel's going to explain the grants and funding available to employers. We're then going to have a bit of a Q&A with one of our employer partners, Craig Johnson from Wilder Davidson, and my colleague Dan O'Gorman. And to close the session, you'll have the opportunity to ask the panel a question. So you can either do that by putting it in the chat function, or you can do that by raising your hand and asking that out loud. So just quick housekeeping, if I may. So today's session is being recorded, and during the presentation part of the session, if you can just keep your mics and cameras off, that would be much appreciated. So without any further ado, really, I am going to kick off with my colleague, Derek. Derek, over to you.
Thanks, David. Good morning, everyone. I'm Derek Thompson. I'm one of the business relationship managers within the graduate apprenticeship team here at Heriot-Watt. And in a few moments, as David has said, we're going to hear more about the university's civil engineering graduate apprenticeship programme. Before we do that, I wanted to provide a short overview of the graduate apprenticeship scheme. So as David says, please feel free to drop questions in the chat. So some of the numbers on the screen help to answer the question, why choose Heriot-Watt? It would be remiss of me not to take the opportunity to tell you a bit more about that. So let me start by answering that question. Why should you choose Heriot-Watt? For those of you who don't know, Heriot-Watt was founded in 1821 from a specific need to educate the local workforce. So the university has a long history of working in partnership with industry and has been at the forefront of work-based learning for over 200 years. Since its foundation, Heriot-Watt has always been pushing the boundaries of education, developing new ways to build skills and share knowledge, supporting both traditional and non-traditional students. So at the moment, we have approximately 50% of our students are non-traditional, meaning that they are learning through flexible education, work-based learning, and so on. Approximately 27,000 students from 160 countries currently studying with the university. So that leads us to some of these figures on the screen. 95% of our full-time students are in employment or further study within 6 months of graduation. Over 350 companies in Scotland have employees who are benefiting from the wide range of upskilling and reskilling opportunities at Heriot-Watt. Good to know that 47% of our graduate apprentices achieved a first-class honours degree based on our first cohort of graduating GAs. And Heriot-Watt produces more CEOs than any other learning institute in Scotland. So enough of the history lesson. Let's move on to some of the figures in terms of the ranking. So this is what the students and the wider public think of Heriot-Watt. That's how we get those rankings. So as you can see on the screen, we're first in Scotland for building, second in the UK for building, third in Scotland for civil engineering, and in the top 15 in the UK for civil engineering. So what is a graduate apprenticeship? This little slide, it's a bit like the Blockbuster TV program with the blocks there. It's just a way of illustrating how the scheme works. So first thing to say is that a graduate apprenticeship is not an apprenticeship for graduates. Instead, it's an apprenticeship that develops people to become graduates. So graduate apprenticeships are part of the apprenticeship family alongside foundation and modern apprenticeships. You earn while you learn. So a graduate apprenticeship is a way to gain a degree qualification while still in work and getting paid. GA students can achieve a nationally recognised and accredited honours degree qualification up to master's level while remaining in full-time employment. And very importantly, the tuition is fully funded by the Scottish Funding Council. It's accessed through SAS, meaning there are no tuition costs for either the student or the employer. However, a graduate apprenticeship is not doing a part-time degree whilst also doing a full-time job. Instead, it's more about integrating work-based learning and the work activities with the learning outcomes of the degree. In fact, 80% of time spent learning is achieved in the workplace through work-based learning. The remaining 20% of the learning time is achieved by spending one day during the working week with the university. And this can either be on campus or remotely using the online delivery model. And this means there are two important support roles for the graduate apprentice, the workplace mentor and the personal tutor at the university. So both of these roles are important in keeping the student on track with their work-based and academic learning. There's no age restrictions on funding. You can become a GA as long as you're now over 16 and live and work in Scotland. And because the GA frameworks are designed in collaboration with industry partners to fill the critical skills gaps for business, the GA programs are ideal for new employees. They're a great way to attract new talent into the organisation and grow your own graduate, as well as being a fantastic way to upskill and reskill existing employees who are looking to develop. Next slide, please, David. So simplifying this into a 1, 2, 3, 4 approach, it's one day a week. The employee spends time during their normal working week learning with other Heriot-Watt GA students. An additional 4 hours per week is recommended for self-directed study or learning support. There's 2 nominated individuals that I mentioned already, key to the success of the scheme, the Heriot-Watt personal tutor and the workplace mentor for day-to-day support in the workplace. And these 2 people meet with the GA student on a regular basis, and Laurent will outline more of that. There's 3 semesters covering 42 weeks in the year, which means there's breaks at Christmas, Easter and summer. And 4 is for the 4 years of the degree programme, at the end of which the student achieves an honours degree. Next slide, please, David. This is just covering some of the pathways in. So I've mentioned new recruits and existing employees. So new recruits would be typically school leavers. There may be people coming in from college who've gone for HNC, HND. There may be people who have done a foundation apprentice. So these are all pathways and routes that are recognised as gaining entry to the programme, providing all the other conditions are met. We also have full-time undergraduate students who can also transfer over. So just finishing off here with some of the benefits for employers. As you can see on the screen, these programs are fully funded, so I suppose that's a major benefit that we like to talk about. It helps to create a learning organisation where it provides and helps to create and build that evidence that the employer embraces learning as part of their everyday culture. They're an ideal way for attracting new talent and for upskilling. They also bring a number of business benefits in terms of improved quality of service and retention of apprentices and helping the existing employees to enhance their skills. So the final slide for me is really just to say what happens now depends on who's going to be put forward as a particular candidate for the programme. There's a number of steps. The first one is really about getting the supplier employer support. The second one is about SAS eligibility for funding. And the third one here is about meeting the entry requirements. So these are caveats that have to be in place before we can even begin the process of considering the student for entry to the programme. We also need to make sure there's a viable cohort in place. So there's a lot to think about between now and September when the programme starts. The final step here is where we would begin to offer the candidate a place on the programme. Should be a point there, David, to bring up. That's it. So that's the final stage in the programme. So that before a student can enrol is basically what I'm saying. There's a lot of steps to get through between now and September. So that's a sort of whirlwind tour of it. Pass over to Laurent now for some details on civil engineering.
Good morning. Thanks, Derek. So I'm Laurent Galbrin. I'm the program director for the graduate apprenticeship in civil engineering. So I look more at the academic side of things. So next slide, please. So the presentation, what I'm going to go through, discuss for the entry requirements for the program, discuss a bit what are the subject areas covered within the degree, go through the content, so the different courses, show you the structure year by year. I won't be going into a lot of detail, but it's to give you an idea of how things work. And I'll discuss in some detail work-based learning. So what is work-based learning? How does that work? How is that related to the courses? I'll also discuss the role of the work-based mentor. So who can be a work-based mentor? What do we expect from a work-based mentor? And at the end, I'll also discuss a bit accreditation, but Donna will go further into that in the next presentation. So to start with, just to reinforce some of the things Derek has already said, in terms of the rankings, so we are a well-established university and a well-established subject in terms of civil engineering. Of course, the tables are updated every year, but we are typically, towards the top of those ranking tables. So currently ranked in the top 15 in the UK, 30 in Scotland for the Times and Sunday Times Good University Guide. And if we look at the QS World University ranking, so across the entire world, we're currently within the top 200. So clearly, a sign of the quality of the degree we offer. A little bit about entry requirements. As Derek said, once you get a candidate, we would look basically at their qualifications, and then we would advise whether they can be offered year one entry or advanced entry. So what is listed here are some of the entry requirements. There is a little bit more. We would be actually looking at those things. So you would typically, employers would send CVs of the candidates. We would have a look and we would make a recommendation. But for example, year one entry, if we're talking about Scottish hires, these are 3As and 1B or 1A and 4Bs, without necessarily having mathematics within those courses, because we offer a maths course for those who don't have maths at higher levels. We offer that in year one. If it's an A-level qualification, so it's ABC or BBB, there is a minimum requirement, however, for maths, which is National 5 level standard grade that the candidate should have. There are other things. I'm not going to go through all the details here, but foundation apprenticeships are taken into account as well for year one entry. For advanced entry, for Scottish education, it could be having advanced hires on top of the hires, and you have the details given here. Or for A levels, it's ABB, including mathematics. But what we find much more common, looking at the students we have had, particularly for year two entry, tends to be those who have done an HNC. It's quite common that we get candidates who have done an HNC in civil engineering, and if they have an A in the graded unit of the HNC, we would offer them automatically year two entry. The other thing to mention, we look at experiential learning. So that's obviously something quite different compared to the traditional degrees. It's quite common. We might have people who have quite a bit of work experience and decide to do the GAA degree, and that would be considered. So it's not only academic qualifications, we also look at experiential learning and make a decision. So there is quite a bit of flexibility in terms of deciding whether one can qualify for the program. A little bit about the program and what are the technical subjects and the other things that are covered. So the program has been designed to produce high quality graduates with the understanding, knowledge, skills, and personal qualities required to undertake a wide range of roles across the construction industry. I think the key words here are the wide range of roles. So the main benefit of doing an apprenticeship is that you're going to be exposed to a very wide range of subjects that if you were starting, as a junior engineer or junior technician, you wouldn't cover those wide range of topics. So that really gives you an advantage. You develop that knowledge and that understanding of all those different areas. In terms of the subject areas covered, so there are the obvious technical subjects you would expect to see in a civil engineering degree, which are structures, geotechnics, materials, hydraulics and hydrology. We also have math courses. On top of that, you have all the environmental aspects, sustainability, and we have some courses that cover management as well, or things like contracts and procurement. The degree will require you to develop problem-solving skills. You'll be involved with design, analysis. There will be some courses where you have group work. So again, you'll develop some teamwork skills, writing skills with all the reports you'll have to write, the coursework, and in particular things like the dissertation at the end. And obviously, you'll develop your professional skills as well throughout the degree, in particular for apprentices that they are working in a company. As every degree is going to be a combination of theory and practice, but more so for an apprenticeship, as all the work-based learning is very much a lot of applied knowledge. So there's quite a lot of practice that is demonstrated through all the work-based reports submitted by the apprentices. In terms of assessment, all the work-based courses have a submission that is called a work-based portfolio, while the other courses that are done on campus will be a mix typically of coursework and exams. So a wide range of assessment modes. So here is the structure of the program. So on this slide, we have year 1 and year 2. And I just want to explain to you how we operate in terms of delivering those courses. So first thing you see for either year 1 or year 2, you have semester 1, semester 2, and semester 3. You have some courses listed under semester 1 and semester 2. Those are what we call the on-campus courses. So the apprentice comes on campus, so at the university, 1 day a week. So in year 1 and year 2, it's going to be the Friday. So let's say year 1, you do your mechanics A on the Friday. So that will be a combination of lectures, tutorials. For that specific course, there are also some labs. Semester 1 is from September to December. So you do the mechanics A during that time, you come back after Christmas. So January to beginning of April, you have semester 2, and you would do your mechanics B. Now, after that, you have what we call semester 3, which effectively is May to August. There is no formal teaching during that period, but unlike the on-campus students, so the non-apprentices, you have not finished your academic year by then. You are still working on your work-based learning courses. So all the courses you see underneath that are named work-based learning courses, all those ones are done across the entire academic year. So semester 1, semester 2, and semester 3. The thing to note is that you are not prescriptive in saying when you need to do any of those courses. So it's up to you or up to the apprentice with discussions with the work-based mentor to decide in which order they want to do their work-based courses. The reasoning behind that is that we know that companies do different work at different times, they're involved with different projects at different times, and they will know which is the recommended order or the best order for them to follow. So you might say, well, I'm doing quite a bit of surveying in September, October, so let's start with surveying and monitoring, for example. Or I'm going to do that later, so I'll leave that for after Christmas. So we don't really advise on any specific order. We leave it very flexible in that sense. Other thing to note, so Derek has been mentioning the 80-20, so 80% learning in the workplace, 20% learning at university. If you look at the structure, you see year 2, we have 4 courses on campus, 4 courses work-based learning. Now we'll see in the next slide, it's the same for year 3. There are 4 courses on campus, 4 courses work-based learning. In year 4, it's 3 on campus and it's 5. You can keep year 1 and year 2. Sorry, David. I was going at just to say what is the split, but the message here, the 80-20 is very much about the time. So it's 4 days in the office, 1 day at university, but the split in terms of courses is closer to a 50-50 between what they do on campus and what they do in the workplace, the apprentices. The other thing to mention is how do we decide which courses are on campus, which courses are work-based learning? So the reasoning is to have more technical courses done on campus. So mechanics is quite technical, the maths also are easier to do on campus. If you look at year 2, determinate structures is also quite a theoretical course, and we'll see in a moment in year 3 we have things like indeterminate structures, design of steel elements, design of concrete elements, all those things are quite theoretical. So we do all those things on campus because we had in the past some courses that were quite theoretical done through work-based learning, and it didn't really work. It was quite difficult for apprentices for them to demonstrate their understanding of the theory of those courses. The other thing to mention is, so those work-based learning courses, what are these work-based reports? Basically, the courses exist in an on-campus version. Okay, so there are lectures and tutorials, but apprentices will not attend any lecture or any tutorial. Instead, they will be given access to all the learning material. So we have all the information online and they are enrolled on all those courses, but they just need to demonstrate an understanding of all the different topics covered in those courses. So there is still a theoretical aspect, but that's complemented by work-based evidence. So typically they would explain a certain topic and then they would provide some work-based evidence that puts that in context. Okay, I think we can move to the next slide. I'm not going into the details of the courses. Okay, you can be given, I'm sure you'll be given those slides later. Typically year one starts from more general types of courses and you get into more specific, more detailed. So, you know, I mentioned determinate structures in year two, it becomes indeterminate structures, which is more advanced in year three, design of steel elements, design of concrete elements. You start getting geotechnics as well, and more geotechnics, foundation engineering, structural element design. All those things are quite technical and advanced as you move on to the later years. The one thing I would mention here is year four, the design project and the dissertation, because they stand a bit apart. The dissertation is a piece of research that is individual. So the apprentice does that. They have their own project. They decide typically that within the company, so we want them to do something that is relevant and of interest to the company. The design project, they're given a brief, they're put in groups, and it's quite specific. So they're told, you know, specific design typically that they need to achieve with certain constraints and certain requirements. So again, it's a very good exercise that builds up on the knowledge that developed across the degree. Next slide, please. So these are a couple of examples of what we call course specification documents. So I mentioned that they do these work-based courses and they need to meet certain learning outcomes. So you have here the first page of the course specification document for surveying and monitoring on the left, construction technology 1 on the right, which are both year 1 courses. And you have a list of learning outcomes. Now I know it's quite small and I don't intend to go into any detail of that, but it's to give you an idea that we say, okay, this is what you need to achieve for that course. So you would need to demonstrate an understanding of land surveying, measurement and monitoring, use of information technology for the surveying and monitoring with specific outcomes under each one of those sections. And effectively, the apprentice writes a report that very much mirrors those learning outcomes. Okay, so they need to be able to discuss, let's say, under land surveying, you have general principles and methods of land surveying, in particular in relation to construction and buildings, instrumentation, setting up and using theodolites, total station, and so on. So it's quite prescriptive. They have all the learning materials, so they have course notes where they can look at what these things are, but the expectation would be that they have activities at work where they can show, you know, that they are actually involved in, for example, doing a bit of surveying, and they can explain what they do and they can put that in context. So as they explain the concepts, they then provide the work-based evidence, which is very much putting theory into context and showing an application. The other thing to mention that is really important, so the work-based learning is not what the apprentice does in the company on their own. It's totally unrealistic to think an apprentice will cover all those different work-based courses, all those different areas, which are quite varied. So by work-based evidence, we mean any knowledge within the company. So you can use past projects, you can talk to colleagues, and the expectation will be that the apprentice will be very much moved around, be involved in discussing with colleagues within different departments and gain that experience and gain that understanding of, you know, all those different topics. So again, it's quite flexible. Now, today, obviously, we're giving an overview of those things. We go into much more detail once we have an induction, and once the academic year starts, I do specific sessions where I explain in more detail, what we expect, and I provide some guidance documents and so on. So I don't want to go into too much detail, but I just want to say that, we have a quite prescriptive approach, and we explain all those things in some detail in terms of what are the expectations. Okay. So we've said already several times that 1 day per week, the apprentice will be at Heriot-Watt University and 4 days with the employer. I should mention one thing specific to civil engineering. We do expect apprentices to come on campus. So we do very much expect face-to-face interaction. And the reasons behind that is we find it very beneficial to be within, to be there, to feel part of a cohort, so to be with the other apprentices as well, and to get that university campus experience. During the pandemic, obviously we did everything online, and we did notice very much a lack of engagement from students and a very different type of interaction. So we are very much pushing for face-to-face interaction. That's not to say that it is not possible to do the degree remotely. So we still offer the degree remotely, but I would tend to offer that only for geographical reasons. So I give an example. We currently have somebody based in the Shetlands. Obviously, that person will not be coming to Edinburgh every week. So that person can do the degree remotely. But wherever possible, we do encourage for on-campus attendance. So that's very much our expectation. The other point noted here, which has already been quickly mentioned by Derek, is that we recommend half a day of the 4 days in the office, half a day to be devoted to university work. Now, when the employer will sign what is called an employer support agreement, which is effectively the contract with the university, we do say that you should provide some time for university work, but the contract is not specific in any way. We cannot be very much specific, but we have a guidance document that goes along with the contract, and our recommendation is half a day, so around 4 hours per week. But again, this is general guidance. It is up to the employer and the apprentice to get to an agreement. Do they want 1 day every 2 weeks? Do they want an hour here and there, across the week? That's fine. You can decide whatever works best for the apprentice. But the message here is that if they're not provided some additional time, they will tend to struggle because they are on a full-time degree, they're not on a part-time degree. What they do at work should be aligned as much as possible to the courses they do in that year at university. So there needs to be that support there to make them succeed. And I say these things up front because I always want to be very clear and to say, an apprentice gets into something that is quite challenging when they decide to do the GA degree, but obviously it's totally doable. We've had already 2 cohorts of graduates, and the apprentices do progress year on year and do well, but it requires hard work. We will have regular meetings with the personal tutors, so that's an academic. So I'm, for example, personal tutor for quite a few apprentices. Other colleagues of mine also work as personal tutors. So we have meetings between the personal tutor, the apprentice, and the work-based mentor several times per year. There is a big meeting at the beginning of the academic year, and that's where we look at all the courses that are done in that year. We go through all the course specification documents, and we make sure that there is a plan of work and that there are no gaps. So let's say if the apprentice and work with mentors say, oh, we don't do any of that type of work, we're going to struggle with that course. Okay, we discuss how we can deal with that. Does that mean we need to provide coursework, so more academic or more theoretical bit coursework, or do we say, well, you can do some searches and find some relevant examples, even if they don't come directly from the company you work in, and that's fine. So we have all those detailed discussions at the beginning of the year. We then have progress review meetings across the year. So quite a lot of formal contact, but on top of that, I do run drop-in sessions every week on the day the apprentices are on campus. So for every year, I have a different drop-in session. So the support is all there. Finally, there is an individual learning agreement that is also developed at the very first meeting. So that's where we discuss the specific courses and where we develop an individual learning plan for the apprentice. But again, that goes probably into a lot of detail you don't really need to know about right now. The only other thing I would mention is the role of the work-based mentor. It is not necessarily the line manager of the apprentice. It doesn't need to be somebody very senior. It needs to be somebody who is in close contact with the apprentice and who has some technical knowledge. So somebody who can tell them, okay, this is what you should really be doing to meet the outcomes of that course. This is who you need to be talking to. And if they don't directly have the responsibility of allocating tasks, at least they can talk to whoever does that within the company and make sure that it happens. So that's the kind of person we want as a work-based mentor, but it's up to the workplace to decide, obviously, who is allocated. And we've had some fairly junior work-based mentors that are very good, either because they maybe have just done a civil engineering degree, or we have some that were apprentices here that now work as work-based mentors, and that works quite well. Okay, next slide, please. So just to finish, accreditations of the course, the program is accredited by the Joint Board of Moderators for incorporated engineer status. So what it means is that the graduates have the educational base for incorporated engineer status. Okay, on top of that, they will need the professional experience, but they're developing that as they do the degree as well. In terms of progressing to chartered engineer status, they would need typically a master. There are other routes possible. I'm sure Donna will discuss that. But yeah, the most common is to do an additional year at master level after the BEng. Okay, and I think that's all from me. And I'll, yeah, here are my contact details. One email also you might want to note is the one at the very bottom, ga@hw.ac.uk. Again, I think you'll be given those slides, but you know, for all the application kind of thing that Derek was discussing, this is the email you would use. Thank you.
Hi, I'll just carry on and give you a little bit of information about the Institution of Civil Engineers with respect to graduate apprenticeships. I'm Donna Surgeoner. I work in the Institution of Civil Engineers membership division, and I'm the membership manager for Europe, Scotland and Northern Ireland. And hoping you can hear me okay. I'm not sure my signal's great today, but I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about who the institution is, who we are, what we do, a little bit of information about professional qualification and membership with ICA, and then I'll give you information on our local contacts if you've got any queries about the ICA. So David, if you want to move to the next slide, that's great. So we're actually a little bit older than Heriot-Watt. We've been around since 1818 as an institution, and in case you don't know, we are a professional membership body. We provide professional qualification and membership support. In my team, we provide the support and guidance, and the professional qualifications are engineer and technician, incorporated engineer and chartered engineer with membership of the ICA. We share knowledge. The organisation exists to share knowledge. It also exists to get people professionally qualified. And we also talk to policymakers and government. That's other divisions of the ICA beyond myself. We are a global organisation, so we have members all around the world. And we would say we are the world's leading civil engineering institution. If you move to the next slide, that's great. Thank you. So I'm in the membership recruitment team. Amongst many things, what that team does is provide support and guidance towards professional qualification. We've got a lot of information on our website. We have staff members who are available weekly, daily, hourly to support students, graduates and engineers and technicians who are working, graduate apprentices and modern apprentices working towards their professional qualifications. So if you want to move to the next slide, that's great, thanks. So when students are actually graduate apprentices and they're learning and working together, what that means is you're developing your workforce, they're developing themselves in their profession quicker than the regular full-time students. They can join the institution as a student member as soon as they start their course, and that's free. what they're doing with their work-based portfolios is gaining their professional abilities, and they can use that to get their professional qualification with the ICE. Some who have completed modern apprentices may already be professionally qualified at the Eng Tech level with us. They can't revert back to student membership because they've got their professional qualification, but they, as well as those who are student members, can work towards their professional qualification. And there are many benefits of membership with the ICE, that support that we provide to help them progress through their career and gain their professional qualification. Students also have access to ICE's early careers network. All graduates and students can participate in any ICE event, but there is their own early careers network where there are events very specifically put on for them. And at Heriot-Watt, there's great links to the Edinburgh Early Careers Network. There's information they can get from the ICE's library, from our website, and also we have links with the new Civil Engineer magazine, the industry updates information. ICE Rewards is something that students and any member can get, and it's almost like a money saving scheme. So there's a bit of various different benefits, but obviously we are talking about developing the workforce here today. So could you move on to the next slide? So in terms of graduate apprentices achieving a professional qualification, in the civil engineering industry, within various consultants, clients, contractors, suppliers, and in academia, we have already professionally qualified members supporting their staff towards a professional qualification. So some of the graduate apprentices might work for an ICE approved employer. That means they could get a training agreement on ICE's training scheme to work towards getting, with this graduate apprenticeship, their incorporated engineer professional qualification initially. If they don't work for a company that's ICE approved, they can use our mentor supported training option to gain their professional qualification. So we'd encourage you, if you were taking on a graduate apprentice, or if you're going to be a graduate apprentice yourself, to ask about getting support towards your professional qualification, either with a training agreement on the scheme or with mentor supported training and a mentor. Your work-based mentor could be the person who's your supervising civil engineer on the scheme, or your mentor if it's mentor supported. We can discuss what's what whenever you get in touch if you want to find out more. As Lawrence said, the Heriot-Watt graduate apprenticeship course is initially accredited for incorporated. So once an apprentice graduates, they can formally complete their initial professional development and apply for the incorporated professional review and get IEng MICA incorporated engineer. They can do various things to go forward and get chartered in the future, and there are completing the master's degrees at the uni, and there are other options, experiential and work-based, that they can do too. So yeah, we'd encourage you, if you're taking on a graduate apprentice, to support them towards getting their professional qualification too. Next slide. Just in terms of who the staff are locally, so as I said, I'm a member of the membership recruitment team. My team covers Scotland and Ireland and Europe. I more locally cover the east of Scotland. So if anybody's got any queries, they can get in touch with me, donna.surgener@ic.org.uk. Mentioned the Early Careers Network. The Edinburgh Early Careers Network are on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. You'll find them. There's information on the IC website, contact information as well. The IC Scotland team has an office in Glasgow. They run many knowledge events that anyone who's a member of ICE can attend, and as I say, that's for all levels of membership in addition to what the Early Careers Network offer. So that's scotland.ic.org.uk. Yeah, so next, what we would say is it's all about, progressing your career and being a student member, being a graduate apprentice, working towards incorporated engineer. It's clear if you're a graduate apprentice, you want to progress your career, you want to start working sooner than if you were doing a full-time degree. So we definitely say it's of benefit. And then just finally, to conclude, as I say, if you do take on graduate apprentices, if you are one yourself, please, just get in touch with us, and we're happy to provide support, guidance and help. And Heriot-Watt is actually an academic partner of the ICA, so we have a few more connections with Heriot-Watt than we maybe do with some of the other universities around. There's a number of academic partnership unis in Scotland as well. So yeah, that's it really. So I'll hand over to the next person who's going to chat to you from CITB, Hazel. But thanks for listening, and I'll answer any questions at the end if there are any. Cheers.
So good morning, everyone. My name's Hazel Johnson, and I'm an engagement advisor with CITB, working with employers in the Edinburgh and West Lothian area. Also on the webinar is my colleague Stuart Tolmie, and he works with employers in Mid-East Lothian and the Borders. And there are a further 9 advisors throughout Scotland covering their own geographical areas. One of our main roles is to engage with employers and to inform them what grant and funding is available to upskill their workforce in the construction related activities. And I've been asked today to talk about the grant funding that is available to employers who may send their employees to Heriot-Watt University to complete a graduate apprenticeship course in either the civil engineering or the construction and built environment. David, can I go to the next? Thank you. There's a lot of financial support available. And there's a lot of information on the various grants available to the registered employers of CITB, and the website has been included there. I'm going to touch on each of them briefly here, but there is a lot to take in, so I've added the links that you can look at in your own time. So the short course grant is an approved course that lasts from 3 hours to 29 days and that are construction specific. There's the qualification grants, and that is split into 4. First one is the short qualification grant, and that's for courses that take less than a year to complete, and these can be delivered through on-site assessment, off-the-job training and e-learning. The long qualification grant is for your typical HNC, HND level courses, which take more than a year to complete on a part-time basis. You also have the advanced craft certificate, and this is for to secure grants for learners that are attending college to a maximum of 35 days and for their final achievement certificate. And then obviously there's the apprenticeship grants that are your traditional 4-year apprenticeships that cover apprenticeships at level 2 and above, and also the graduate apprenticeships, which I'll talk to you about in the next slide. Also available to employers is the Skills and Training Fund, and this is a scored application process, and there are several criteria to that that you have to meet, but your local advisor can provide you with more information on that sort of training, and it can be funded via this fund. As I said at the beginning, there are a lot of information on the various grants available to registered employers on the CITB website, but I've also included the links here. David, if you can go to the 3rd slide. Yep. So the graduate funding, it's available to employers who are registered with CITB and are up to date with their levy returns. The grant is to help cover the off-the-job attendance with an approved apprenticeship provider. So in this case, Heriot-Watt University. It's payable every 13 weeks and it totals £2,500 every year over the 4 years. And on the final achievement of the apprenticeship, a final payment of £3,500 is paid, and that's giving a total of £13,500 over the 4 years. If you have employees who you think may go down this route, you should speak to your own advisor within your local geographical area. David, can I go to the lines? That's fine, thanks. So this has obviously just been a very brief synopsis of what CITB can offer an employer, and all the information is on our website, but also the engagement advisors are available within your local regions of Scotland. And if you're interested to chatting through your options with your local advisor, please drop me an email. My email address is on the slide there, and I will forward your request for them to contact you direct. If anyone has any questions, obviously at the end we can take questions. Myself and Stuart are there to help. Okay, thanks very much.
Great, thanks Hazel.
Thank you.
Thanks to everybody who has spoken so far. So now, folks, I'm just going to stop sharing my screen because we're going to have a little bit of a Q&A with Craig Johnson, who's from Wilbur Davidson, and my colleague Dan, who's going to facilitate the bit of a Q&A. So, guys, I'm just going to stop sharing and then we shall kick off. Dan, over to you and Craig.
Sure. Thanks, David. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us on the call this morning. Good to see good turnout, and for everyone who's been speaking this morning. My name's Dan O'Gorman. I'm one of the business relationship managers within the GA team, so same role as my colleague Derek. And I first got to know Craig about this time last year, I think, when we worked on a graduate apprenticeship application for one of your colleagues at Will Rudd.
Yeah.
I don't know if you just want to quickly introduce yourself, Craig, before we dive in.
Yeah, so I'm Craig Johnston. I'm a senior engineer from Will Rudd Davidson. I previously was one of the first cohorts on the graduate apprentice course and graduated in 2021. And I now mentor one of our graduate apprentices in this office as of this year.
That's great. Thanks, Craig. So we'll just dive into the Q&A then. So just to start with, why did Will Rudd Davidson go down the graduate apprenticeship route, and how did the GA model suit the business's needs?
Well, Will Rudd's, we're accredited investors of people, and the company, it strives to enhance people's skills and workforce in the workforce. And myself being one of the first sort of GA apprentices, I was able to take the experience that I'd gained throughout my career when I started professionally back in 2006 as a apprentice civil and structural engineering technician. And I was able to sort of apply what I'd gained and experienced to the academia in order to attain a degree. And that benefited my career professionally. And it also benefited the company's needs, as I could be marketed as someone with relevant qualifications now, and demonstrate to clients that WRD invests in their people to enhance skill sets. The local presence has made it convenient for staff to attend the office as well, and in the university. And there was no previous options for day release in terms of locally in Edinburgh, shall we say, for sort of obtaining a degree. You could go to college here. You could go to Glasgow University and Dundee. I think there was some routes up there, but nothing really in Edinburgh. So it certainly helped our office here in this space here.
Yeah, that's interesting. So it kind of really fit a specific need there in terms of the qualification, but also the location and that kind of method of delivery as well. Kind of hit those 3 points for you. What difference or impact do you feel that graduate apprentices have made to the business, and kind of any examples of that, if that's not to put you on the spot too much, Craig?
The current GA that we have, he's made a complete career change from being an electrician, who was running his own business, and he's wanted to become an engineer. So, I've been impressed with his attitude and his professionalism, committing himself to the work-based learning program. And it benefits other engineers within our practice because it, enhances their mentorship skills. That can be anything. It can be from technicians in the office who are demonstrating to their graduate apprenticeship how to use CAD, which is always a good benefit for engineers to know. Assistant engineers, just to help them with his basic design principles. And then, the work, this program, it's rewarded for both the student and the mentor. Personally myself being a GA, I just wish this program was around when I was, when I left school. Although I gained quite a lot of knowledge by working in the industry, it would have been useful. This would have been a bit more useful maybe 10 years ago, if you will. But there's a great opportunity to develop staff, opposed to just having a graduate who's come fresh in. You're getting someone who is learning, working at the same time, and also gaining a degree. So it definitely enhances the business, because you're kind of getting, at the end of it, you're getting more than just a GA, a graduate engineer. You're getting someone who has that work-based knowledge, that work experience, who's worked on live projects. And I think that benefits over a sort of traditional graduate coming into the office.
Dan, sorry, can I interrupt?
Yeah, of course.
Laurent here. There is a question in the chat from Donna. Donna, I don't know if you want to say it or if I just read it out loud.
Okay, thanks. Well, I was just going to say, how did you find combining work and the work-based learning activities? It feels like a lot. Did you manage to fit it in okay? And did your employer give you that time that Lauren was mentioning?
Well, I think for myself, because I'd gained quite a lot of experience by working in the industry, I was able to draw on quite a lot of that for my to apply to sort of my academic and my work-based reports. But I do know that people that were in my year struggled a little bit of that, because they were trying to find things to be able to demonstrate and evidence for their work-based reports. But I think a lot of people didn't realise that it doesn't necessarily have to be something that you're sort of specifically working on. You can be working within a project, and you could use something that maybe mechanical electrical engineer or someone's prepared. You could use that to demonstrate. So I think there was a wee bit of that debate going on between us when we were all at the university. But yeah, it intensified for me in third year, specifically trying to remember how to do maths. It'd been about 10 years since I'd used that sort of skill set of going back to like similar triangles and things like that. It was quite interesting, but it was also very good just managing to sort of remember that information. I won't say it's easy, it's challenging. You need to have someone that's willing to be able to put in the hours. And you have to just sort of build I think if you build a proper sort of timetable for yourself and commit yourself to that, then it all works out fine.
And you're proof that it's possible. So
yeah, it is possible. It's challenging, but once you come out at the end of it, it's very rewarding. So
that's great. Thanks, Craig. Just in the interest of time, then, oh, actually, we've got another question. Hang on, from Malcolm. Do you find there's a natural connection between the assessment at the end of the graduate apprenticeship program and the work experience, and any links to professional recognition at ING with a professional institution?
Well, you know, before I heard about the GA program, my sort of path was to take that step in ICE. So I'd got my Eng Tech in 2015, and then my next step I was going to aim for was doing the ING and then going for chartership. So that was kind of the progressive path I had in my head. Then the GA program came along, and that unlocked quite a lot of things, because it allowed me just to get that academic base in straight away, and I'm just able to go and straight apply for my chartership exam. So there is a benefit, and there's a big link. I think you get a better it kind of makes the person commit more to doing the learning. Whereas if I was trying to do the ING, I was like, oh, I'll do a bit here and then I'll leave it for 6 months, and then you're kind of going back to something that you've forgotten about. So I think there is a lot of benefit in the GA program in terms of getting the next step of accreditation into the IC or iStruct for that matter.
Thanks, Craig. Just conscious we've got about 5 minutes left. Thanks so much for your time, Craig. It's great to get your insight, and I think we couldn't really ask for a better advocate of the program, of someone who's been through the program themselves and is now mentoring. So you've kind of taken that journey really full circle there and seen both sides. So yeah, thanks again for your insight, Craig. It's really, really valuable. David, can I hand back to yourself?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Craig. Thanks, Dan. That was, as Dan said, that was some really great examples there of the benefits and the challenges along the way. So I really just open up for any other questions, really. So we've got, I know this is, so while we wait for the question to come through, so please raise your hand or drop it in the chat. Just a quick thanks from me to Derek and Laurent for the graduate apprenticeship information. Donna, thanks very much for the ICE stuff. Hazel, thanks again for the CITB info on grants and funding. And again to Dan and Craig for that last section. There was a lot of information in there, folks. So we'll obviously be sending out the slides and the info, and we'll obviously also make sure we enclose the individual contact details for Donna and Hazel if there's any specific follow-up you'd like to make regarding ICE membership and CITB grants and funding. So I don't know if anybody else in the panel has got any observations they want to make. If I had any other questions coming through. Someone's typing.
David, I was just going to say, I think that the graduate apprenticeship's a really positive step, and I think if you get dedicated students and they're working hard, they'll get through it. It isn't a it's a thing to do, you know, but I think obviously Craig has and all your other graduates have proved it's entirely possible, and definitely think it's a benefit to the industry, and we'd definitely encourage everyone to go for it and join the IC as well while they're at it.
Absolutely. Thanks, Donna. Saffron, just up a wee question there about the video recording. Yes, Saffron, yes, we will be. We'll send not only the slides, but we'll get the video uploaded to YouTube, and we'll share around a link of the session. And yeah, please feel free to share that with any of your colleagues, wherever you work, or yeah, please you can share that if you like. Okay, I'm going to give it one more minute. You're very welcome. Okay, folks, well, I can't see any little dots flickering in the corner of my screen. So happy to close the session there. Thanks again to all the panel speakers today. Thanks all for your great input, very informative. And thanks to everyone that joined the call this morning. We shall be sending around details as soon as we can after the session. So thanks again for joining this morning. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thanks, David, and thanks for inviting us.
You're very welcome.
Speak to you soon. Bye.